good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're all having a good day, or as good as possible on planet Earth, wherever you are. Firstly, thank you all very, very much for joining us on the live last night outside Buckingham Palace. That was loads of fun. Those police officers were lovely, really lovely. In fact, the first officer that we met before we went approached him and said, can we get near the main gate? And he said, no, best place to go is round the side, which is where we went. And I said, we're going to be on the internet, is that okay? And he got quite excited. He said, oh, you big TikToker. And I said, oh, no. It's YouTube. And I explained the size of my channel. And he went, that's pretty substantial. What's the name of the channel? That was his first question. And I realised then that probably he'd given the name of the channel. So we were actually had the police join us on the live last night because they were super friendly, all the officers around us. Talk about feeling safe. And as soon as I finished the live, literally 5 seconds later, a motorcade rocked up, presumably with the Prince and Princess of Wales in it. But all we could see were blue lights from a distance, so you didn't miss anything. But thank you all very, very much for joining us, including the naughty people posing as Harry and Meghan themselves in the comments. Of course, that was a parody. I didn't know who it was at first. I later found out the Dolphin Safari were watching it, so I wondered if one of them was guilty, but no, it turns out Trevor Coult was posing as Meghan Markle in the comments last night, and one of his friends was posing as Harry, and there was a lot of fun banter. Right, let's get down to business. So firstly, Harry and Meghan just couldn't bear the thought, I suppose, that it got out they weren't on the guest list for Hugh Grosvenor's wedding next year. The Duke of Westminster, no less. Young, good-looking, fabulously wealthy, friends with Harry and William from years back. And so rather than just being dignified and never complain, never explain, a puff piece came out, apparently page 6, but I saw reference of it in the Daily Mail, that a source from the Sussex camp wanted to make sure we all know that they were invited, but it was them who declined the Duke of Westminster. Who does the Duke of Westminster think he is? I hope he doesn't think he owns most of Mayfair. I hope he's not the landlord of Buckingham Palace or anything important. I mean, after all, we've already heard who the hell did the Queen of England think she was, talk to Meghan Markle like that. Now, as you know, PR is my thing. And to me, PR is how information is transmitted to us as a population, a general public, and how it is received by us. And there's a skill to that. It really is a skill set. Not one of my skill sets, I hasten to add, but I love observing it. So I don't know if this puff piece was sanctioned by Meghan herself or by Harry, or whether it's just some well-meaning friend who thought they might make things 100 times worse, or whether it's an ill-meaning friend who thought they'd make things 100 times worse. But how embarrassing for someone who's not on the guest list to go, well, excuse me, actually I was, but I was the one that decided to tell them no because I thought it would be too awkward. I mean, it's like, is Harry Emmanuel helping her? Is he involved? Has he distanced himself, sacked her? I don't know. Brings me to the next one. Harry's court case. There he is in court. This is all going on. Apparently there'll be a decision made at a later date. Isn't it always at a later date? A lot of it behind closed doors. I do think that's actually a good idea because they're going to be discussing security details to do with Harry, the royal family. That shouldn't be out in the public domain. Yes, of course, that should be behind closed doors. I do realise that does breed suspicion from some quarters. And I understand that as well. But come on, guys, we've got to let them handle the security. Now, the reason that Harry finds himself in taking the Home Office to court to try and get his security is because he was the one who chose to leave the royal family and the security of the palaces and the castles. He wasn't fired, as far as we know. That is not the official story. He huffed, puffed and upped and packed his bags and stormed out. It wasn't a well thought through plan. I think the reason most people were stunned when they announced this Megxit thing was a lot of us thought, how the hell are you going to earn a living? What do you mean you want to be financially independent? How? Selling cheese, advertising products, right royal juices, demeaning, lowering yourself. How are you going to pay for security? How are you going to pay for your rent? How are you going to generate an income? Those were the thoughts that I could clearly see going through people's minds on the internet and on the television at the time. Those thoughts clearly didn't go through Harry's mind. And now he finds himself in a situation, a very expensive court case, which will cost him money, as well as presumably the taxpayer, where it's not like he was fired. If he'd been thrown out, if that was the official story, if Harry had actually been thrown out with Meghan and then they were not given security, believe it or not, I would be first on his side, saying he was born a prince, this was not his choice, this was not his decision, he's got a family, he's entitled to security. But that is not the case. This is someone who's resigned voluntarily, walked out, and now is thinking about it. And it does somewhat come across as him very publicly begging. I mean, from a PR point of view, I know that's not the legal position, but from a public relations point of view, the court case, the very fact that a prince of the United Kingdom is having to take his father's government to court to argue to get the taxpayer to pay for his and his family's security does come across as begging bowl. Got a phone call there, Graham.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. No, you carry on.
It's Bond. It's Mr. Bond.
Oh, right. Oh, it's Mr. Bond on the phone. Well, that's quite
elusive.
all right. We're meeting up with an old friend of ours in London today, hopefully, and we might have him on a video later. Dun, 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 dun. And you'll love Mr. Bond, trust me. He's nothing like James Bond. Right, so when it comes to begging, that brings me to the next thing. The most astonishing puff piece I've ever seen in my life, I have just seen in the Daily Mirror. Apparently, and now I have no idea if this puff piece, again, was sanctioned by Meghan or Harry or Ari Emanuel or whoever's representing them. I don't know if this was put out by a well-meaning friend who wants to make things look a million times worse, or whether it was put out by an enemy camp to make things a million times worse. Whoever is responsible for this story is a lunatic. It's official. Because this puff piece says that King Charles has been begging Meghan and Harry to come to Sandringham for Christmas. He will be heartbroken if they don't come, and that Meghan and Harry are thinking about it. Have you ever heard such lunacy? Who is responsible for that puff piece, I would ask. I find it very hard to believe that even Meghan, from a PR, it has PR suicidal thoughts like that. And when I say suicidal, I don't mean literally ending one's life. I mean ending one's career, killing off any chance, complete humiliation in public. I mean, the royal family have just been put through about a week and a half of hell. They've been dragged to hell and back, particularly King Charles and Catherine, the Princess of Wales. So who thought it was a good idea to put out a puff piece pretending, because I find this incredibly hard to believe, pretending that the king is literally begging on bended knee, particularly to see Meghan at Sandringham over Christmas? I mean, can anybody believe that? I can't believe that. I really can't. And interestingly enough, just to end this, the portrait photograph of Catherine, who looked dazzling last night in gold, shimmery sort of goldy pink. Camilla also looked absolutely beautiful. Charles and William, they had this portrait photo taken and I had a good hard look at the faces. Catherine is putting on a brave face. William, to me, looked concerned. Camilla looked tired. But out of all four of them, Charles, his eyes are very, very angry. Very angry, as if the man has been pushed to the bare limit. Well, let's see. I could be completely wrong, and Harry and Meghan could be skipping along to the church at Sandringham on Christmas Day. We shall have to wait and see. In the meantime, it would appear that the PR lunacy continues. Whatever any members of the royal family are like, behind closed doors, none of us really know. They're human beings, of course. What makes them look weird or making strange decisions are the PR people, the public relations that transmit their messages to us, the general public. And as far as Meghan's team's going, I think she's got a saboteur in there somewhere, don't you? As always, thank you very much for listening, and again, I won't be able to read your comments, but I will read them when I get home, and we will be home soon. Thank you very much for listening.